All right, so today we have a repeat guest. We're going to go over our great day that we had on April 21st. We have Jordan Cannata on he's with Slaughter.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for taking the time out to come on.
Of course, kid. Anytime. Thank you for having me again.
For sure, and you're welcome anytime also. But yeah.
All right, I'll be back tomorrow and the day after.
That's fine. That's fine. We could talk for days, honestly. Especially me and you, just drums alone. So
this is true. This is true.
Yeah. So obviously it started off with the first time we had you on. You had talked about you're going to be in Tucson on that day on the 21st of April. And you said, if we can go out there, and we were definitely planning on it. And we went out there. You sent the information we got it that morning about, that the tickets will be at the will call. And if there's any issues, just let you know, send you a message, and everything went great. Got him right away. And first thing we did was like, okay, I've never been here before. Let's go find the stage and where he's going to be playing just to see where we're going to be going later on.
That's the first thing I did too, because I was never there before either.
Yeah, for sure. So we walk up there not expecting anything, just expected an empty stage. And next thing we know is we see you doing sound check. And I just remember waving my arm, and I'm like, I don't know if he can see us or not, but I'm gonna wave my arm and see if he responds. And you did.
Wave back.
You waved back, and then next thing we know is you're whispering into, it's Jeff, right? Jeff's here?
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
And next, I was like, oh shit, I think Jordan's just gonna have us come back there. We're just totally just planning on going, waving and going and checking out the fair. Next thing you know, we come backstage to sound check.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And you greeted us with such genuine warmth and sincerity. That was just so nice. And it was just an amazing experience to just go back there and visit with you. And you finished up your sound check, and then Dana came by. We got to meet him briefly. And it was really cool that you gave Justin a pair of sticks and that you let him play the drums. That was a nice experience for me.
Well, and did you want to explain how me playing the drums started, or?
Well, I mean,
Dana had brought up us paying.
That's right.
Paying for something.
That's right. Yeah. Hold on. You know what? Hold on. You're gonna have to kind of remind me of exactly what he said. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what he said.
He said roughly, and I don't remember. I can't say it verbatim, but he said, "Yeah, you guys know that you can't just be back here for free or something like that. You're gonna have to work it off." And I was like, "Play a song if you want me to."
That's right.
and then you're like, "You want to play?" I'm like, "Seriously?"
Like, yeah. Well, that's how I operate, right? I don't tell you there's a charge to come hang out. I get you to come hang out, and then you have no choice.
Exactly, right. You're obligated. Yeah, for sure. But and I got on there, and luckily, like I told you when I was there, that my dad had me reverse my kit for 2 years when I was between the age of 10 and 12 and play lefty, so I could get the ambidexterity of playing that way. So I could kind of fudge my way around your drum set, and we even talked about it later on in the night that everyone's like, you need to either go on first or last because you're lefty and we're all righty. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 10 or 11 right now. Like this is all backwards to me. I had fun. It was a blast doing it. There's a few people watching, so that was really cool. And
yeah, man, listen, that's what it's all about. I mean, listen, when you guys showed up, it was cool because of course, have we hung out a bazillion times over the years? No, right? But we've met before. We have history. We've stayed in touch over the years, all the way back from the Adrenaline Mob days, and it was just it was really cool to go across the country and get to see some familiar faces, friendly faces, and that's part of what we all love about what we do is that we go all over the place and we have friends everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's about. That's what music is, you know, that's it's emotion. So it's a, you know, it brings people together. It brings people, it connects people because everybody has, you know, a connection to the song, which connects you to each other. And that's what it's in what it's about for us too, you know. So, you know, when you guys reached out to me about doing the first episode and then you told me you were, you know, not far from Tucson, I was like, oh, well, guess what? I'm gonna be there. Let's hang, you know, and that's what it's about. You know, what's the point in traveling around and playing if you're not going to get to actually, you know, interact with the people that you're surrounded by, and then hopefully become friends with those people.
And that's how we felt like when we first came up and you just came off the drums and just hugged us. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like this is like I'm seeing like
It
either a
was
long
very
lost
sincere.
friend or a family
Yeah.
member. Like this, like we felt so inclusive at that point. Like, wow, this would be awesome. Like this, we've only been here 2 minutes and we feel like we're part of the Slaughter family. So we
Well,
just
you
want to
are.
thank you. Yeah, we just want to thank you so much for that, because that we've been to shows before and met, done meet and greets, stuff like that, and it's total opposite. You know, thanks for coming out. Like, good, we're glad you did this. We have to do this because you paid for it. But you know, that's
Yeah.
and you know, and I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and the way that you were just right off the bat was just amazing to us, and we just
Oh,
want to
thank
thank
you.
you. So
Oh, listen, it's that goes right back to you guys though, because you know the moment that, you know, I mean, listen, you didn't have to help me unpack all my drums at the Adrenaline Mob show
that was
6
awesome.
years ago. You know, yeah, but like that was a big help
Yeah.
to me. Like you're, you
Yeah,
know,
for
you're
sure.
saying that was fun, but that was a huge help to me. You remember that was a really big drum kit.
Oh, it
So,
was, it
you
was.
know, so you know, you didn't have to help me out that way. You didn't have to, you know, you guys you guys didn't have to. I mean, it was not the shortest drive for you guys to get to Tucson, right? It was how
Couple
far away?
hours,
It
couple
was
hours, yeah.
a couple hours. That's not a short drive. You guys took the time to come out and see us play, you know. So, you know, having you guys come up there and hang for a while, that's the least I could do.
Well, we
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah, very much.
And then at that point, you after the sound check and everything, you wanted to go. You guys were going
Yeah,
back to the
break to the
hotel.
hotel.
What time did you guys get there? Again, to Tucson.
For the, uh, you mean
Was it
originally
night
for
before,
sound check
right?
and all that?
Yeah, well, it's like the night before when you got to the hotel, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we got into Tucson pretty late the night before.
Okay.
We all flew in late that night. We had pretty much just enough time to kind of land, get a bite to eat, and go to bed.
Wow.
And then load in that day was fairly early in the day. I don't remember exactly what time, but we were there for, I don't know, I was probably there for at least a couple hours getting everything going before you guys showed up, I think. Not 100% sure. But I mean, it's whenever you have those, especially, you know, when you have festival dates, especially, it's a little tricky sometimes. A lot of it's very, very fast paced. Sometimes it's kind of a throw and go because there's so many bands playing and everybody's kind of got to, you know, be on it. So
Yeah.
we like to try to show up early, you know, just so that we're prepared for anything. Because sometimes you get there and everything's just relaxed and smooth, and other times you get there and it's just like all hell breaks loose within the first
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we try to, you know, be there early, even if we don't necessarily need to, just so that we're prepared for anything.
Did the other bands have separate tents from you?
Yeah, so every band had like a little tent that was kind of lined up along the row, and then there was one common area, like a common building for with like the food catering and stuff for everybody, but it was on the other end of the stage.
Oh,
So
boy.
once the show started, the only way to get back there was to walk either in front or across from the stage. So once the first band went on, everybody was kind of steering clear of the catering area because there was no way to really go there without kind of interrupting the other bands.
Yeah, for
Gotcha.
sure. For sure.
You know, so it was like really early. Everybody kind of went and got their food, and then from that point on, we all stayed on the other side.
Yeah, because it's at least a 6 hour flight from New York to here. So
Yeah, it was a long one. That was a long trip in general because we did. So we flew I flew from New York to Tucson,
Mm.
and then I had to get up really early the following morning
Yeah.
to fly to Northern California
Yeah.
for a show the next day, and then flew back to New York from California the following day.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a long trip.
For sure. Yeah. And I remember you're like, we're going to go to the hotel for a little bit. It's like, yeah, I don't blame you. You guys probably want to get some rest and shower and all that. And then you handed us the VIP passes and just said you text us when you got back. And it was cool because it gave us a chance for me to get sunscreen for one, because I just got my hair cut the next day or the
Right.
day before. Geez,
Yeah.
sorry. My haircut the day before, and the sides were completely shaved off, and I forgot sunscreen that day. So
Right.
at that stage, you're doing the sound check. I'm like, this is not a good idea right now. So we booked it, got sunscreen,
Yeah.
walked
Got
around,
people watch a little bit.
got to
which is
people
always
watch.
fun.
Yeah. So that
That's
was
cool because you guys got to walk around, check out the fair.
yeah.
I was a little bummed out. I didn't really get to go walk around and see the fair that day because sometimes we've played quite a few of like state fairs and county fairs over the last year or so, and I'm sure that the rest of the band has done tons of that over the years. But being that I'm the new guy, it's new for me. So, but we've done a few of them, and the couple that I've managed to get to walk around, some of them are like really really cool.
Yeah.
So I was a little bummed that I didn't actually get to kind of weave my way around and check it out a little bit. But it from the stage, it looked like it was really,
Yeah,
pretty
they
big,
had
cool
like
spot.
sea lion show, and it was
Yeah.
random stuff. Yeah.
Lions.
Yeah, there was like 3 sea lions, and they were doing all these tricks and stuff.
Got to see that. That was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
It
that's
was,
cool.
yeah, some crazy stuff going on. And there was all these
Come
little
on
like,
stage with us.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I want to
Talk to
have a
them
sea
earlier.
lion on stage. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. It looked mobile, so they might have been able to just drive it right behind the stage in the grassy area and set it up. So
Just let them sit there and juggle while we play. I'm cool with it.
exactly. Yeah, and just clap for you at the end of the song.
Somebody has to.
Been great.
We saw a guy in the crowd that looked just like Albert Einstein.
Yes. Yeah,
which he was at the concert because he was standing in line, and we saw him standing in line. So Albert Einstein was there.
yeah.
Oh, I like
I
it.
can send you the picture if you're curious. I can send you the picture of it. It's
Yeah,
pretty
please
look
do.
just like him. Like
Yeah,
it's a
really
time
did.
traveling Albert Einstein.
That's
We're like, it's a metal Albert Einstein.
Yeah, metal Albert Einstein.
Metal Einstein. I love it.
Yeah, good
Love
band. So yeah, so we kind of cruised around, which was cool because we were glad we got that time and that you got to rest. And you texted us when you got back, brought us backstage, and we got to hang out in the tent and meet the rest of the guys. It's really cool. Got to talk to Blando about some wine and all that, and he was giving you shit about not drinking and everything else.
Yeah, that's his MO.
Yeah, for sure. And then we got to talk shop for a while, just talk drums, all that stuff. Found out that you can't twirl with your right and I can't twirl with my left, and she can't twirl with either.
Twirl with either. I've been working on it. I mean, I can do like a baton twirl, and
that's not bad. That's pretty good.
I've gotten.
That's pretty good. I know the people listening couldn't see that, but that was pretty good.
Last night it was flying across the living room.
Hence why I did this when she started. I'm like, we're gonna have Jordan on. You're gonna start spinning it, and he's gonna see what our ceiling looks like because you're gonna hit the camera right.
I'm working on it.
That I have to start working on getting better at it with my right hand though, because I mean I can do it really quick with the right hand. Like I can get a couple of quick spins and then stop, but I can't keep going for a long time.
Yeah.
The left hand it'll go all day long nonstop, not a problem. The right hand, if I get 2 or 3 spins out of it, that's like the maximum before I start to lose it.
That's how I am too. That's what I was doing last night. I was like, I can get a couple, and then it just falls out of my hand. Like and then I can be walking up and down the street and whatever, and
it never ends.
Yep. Yeah, it never ends. Yep.
So we hope we didn't interrupt your warm up routine too much. What do you usually do for warm up?
Honestly, not too much. I have a bunch of drum pad drills, like rudiments and exercises that I do, and I do a bunch of stretching. But I only really typically do that for maybe the 20 minutes to maybe 30 minutes before we play. and I usually, we all, the band is very tight knit. We're always together when we're out. So like, even when I'm doing that, we're all sitting in the room talking and having a good time while I'm doing it. I'm sitting there running those drills while we're all having conversations. But yeah, just I have these like maybe 10 or 12 different just kind of like rudimental exercises that I'll run with sticks for a little bit. I'll do some typical stretches, trying to touch the toes, which I can't do, but I go as far as I can. Stretching out the arms and whatnot. And then for a few minutes before we play, I kind of like to just kind of get the blood pumping. So I'll kind of just start like hopping around like an idiot, just kind of jumping, doing like high knees like I used to do in gym class, that kind of thing. But that's really just to get the blood pumping for a few minutes before we hit the stage.
Okay.
But I'm pretty typical, just different kinds of rudimental exercises and stuff. Nothing too crazy.
Okay. And then yeah, at that point you like I think right after you kind of warmed up, you asked if how where we wanted to see the show from, and
Yeah.
Andrea had never seen a show from side stage. I have
Yeah.
once, and I was like, this might be her only chance to see it, but I didn't want to put any pressure on you to get in trouble or anything like that. But that was amazing because first of all, it was amazing to see it, but secondly, the lady that was putting all the concerts together was awesome.
It was really nice.
Yeah, I remember. She was really nice. Yeah.
She was taking pictures and everything for us and just awesome. So that was really cool to have that before you guys got on and came out and everything. Do you get nervous before you go out?
Not really, no. I mean, I just get more excited, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to say that I've never been nervous. There have always, of course, there's been situations where I've been nervous, but most of the time, not really. No. I mean, especially in a situation like that where, I've been playing with Slaughter for a little while now. We all are really, really tight. We already have the chemistry built on stage musically and all that. So, and we all know the set really well. So, I mean, in that situation, it's pretty comfortable, kind of just getting up there and doing what we do and just having fun with it. There definitely have been times where I've been nervous before, but usually that's a specific situation, maybe like a last minute call where I, didn't have a lot of time to prep and I'm in my head and oh God, I'm gonna forget, the arrangement of this song or whatever because I just learned it yesterday, So like yeah, those are moments that are a little nerve-wracking, but I don't typically get nervous for most shows because I honestly just get excited. Like the blood starts pumping and I see the people out there and I just want to go.
Sure.
I will say the one thing that can be a little nerve-wracking from time to time is when I do the stuff where I stand up on the kit and the chair and all that. Because as you saw, you have a knack. The two of you have a knack for coming to shows.
And we're gonna get into that in just a minute.
Yeah, you have a knack for coming when something goes wrong. I don't know. Maybe I need to stop inviting you.
And we'd understand, or we could just keep pushing it and see how far we can take it. I don't know.
See how bad it can get. But no, like so, sometimes because we do pretty much lately all fly dates, so I'm using backline gear, rental gear, and I never know what I'm gonna get. And like every now and then, like maybe the drum throne might be a little rickety, a little wobbly. So like when I'm going to that stuff where I stand up on it or whatever, and it starts doing this, shaking a little bit.
Yeah.
Those moments can be a little nerve-wracking, like, oh, is this the time where I'm gonna bust my ass in front of a couple thousand people or not?
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
But in general, no, I honestly I just love it so much. I just get really excited.
That's
cool.
awesome.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then I was just gonna say, like you guys just started off just flying out of there and everything was great. And then the hi-hat,
you're in sync with each other.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And then
we definitely have a really good chemistry up there. We have a lot of fun, and that's really, I think what makes the band for me is that it's not just about that I like the music we play, but just we really do enjoy getting up with each other. And like every now and then, you never know, the show is not identical every night because we're all having a good time, and every now and then somebody will just pull something out that's like a total shock, and it's always fun when that happens. I'm usually that's Blando is like the wild card who loves to just
Okay.
throw something at you, so just the other day, he like, and I was in the middle of doing my drum solo, and he came up behind the kit and grabbed the backup snare off the floor and was holding it over at me so I would
Oh
start to
yeah, I
hit
saw
the middle
that.
of the
Yeah, yeah,
solo.
yeah. When someone puts
So
it or an invisible drum shows up, you have to hit it. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So like little things like that where it's just like, oh, this is fun. We're up there having a good time, and that I think that makes a big difference. When with any band,
Mm.
when you know that everybody up there is genuinely happy to be there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Especially when the other guys have been doing it a really long time too. The rest of the guys in the group that have
Oh
been
yeah. I mean,
playing
listen, I don't know how many. I don't know how many times they've played the song Up All Night,
Right.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they play it every time as if it's the first time, and they love it, and that's what's really cool. I mean, I could already say I've played it countless times, and I really haven't been with them that long in the big scheme of things. So, God, how many times those guys have played it, but you know, from what I can tell, they're not tired of it. If anything,
It
they're
definitely didn't seem like it.
No.
Yeah.
they well, I think, they're grateful for it. They know, what the
Yeah.
song has meant to a lot of people, and
Right.
and what, that one and Fly to the Angels and all the
Yeah.
songs that people know, they're aware of what those songs mean to people. And I think that, the fact of the matter is, especially one like Fly to the Angels, it means a lot to them too, So I mean, it's just one of those things where I think that it never really gets old for anybody.
And it's a good thing Flight of the Angels is a slower song that you can hit the snare with one hand because you're having hi-hat issues at that point. So
Yeah, I was.
yeah,
Yeah,
right
that's
after Immigrant Song,
another
right?
reason why it was good for you to be back there.
Yeah, because I was the only one that noticed.
Yeah.
You
I
came
gotta
running over.
go.
I
I
was
was like,
sitting there
wait,
waving.
something's not right. Yeah. And
I
then
was
because
sitting there waving to people, and then you came over, and I was like, "Yes, somebody."
yeah, well, because I noticed that it wasn't opening and closing, and it was right after Immigrant Song, right?
Yeah. We did
And you
we
and
did.
you were just beating the hell out of those hi-hats on that song because that's what it calls for.
That's what it
So
calls for. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
It happened kind of late in that song, like
mhm,
within the last 30 or 45
yeah.
seconds of the song it happened.
And
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure what happened. I don't know if the hi-hat, if the chain snapped, or if the connection where the
the
chain and the rod
connections,
connectors fell apart.
yeah, I think the connection snapped,
That's what snapped.
which I've
Okay.
never seen that happen before.
Me neither. It was a first.
Those aren't supposed to do that. The
No, that was
chain's
a
supposed
total
to
first.
break, but you're not supposed to break the rod that goes in between the twos.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not. That was a
So
first for me. I've never had that happen before either. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do. We got
yeah,
through it, finished the tune, and then in the middle of Fly to the Angels, sat there and played little pieces like one handed
yeah.
while
I
swapping the
remember. Yeah, you were like pointing at the hi
Yeah.
hat. I forget this isn't video, but yeah, you point at the hi hat. Like, no, it's. I need a new one. It's not working. This, you're not. I don't think you can fix it.
Luckily, the backline company did have an extra one there
Yeah,
that they were able to
sure.
bring out. It took them a little bit to get it, but they were prepared. They had it, and I mean, but again, that's kind of what I was talking about before. Like, when you travel in the way we do, playing with
Yeah,
backline, you never really know what you're going to get. And the backline companies, like that was something that they couldn't even predict. I would have never
sure.
seen that. Like
No.
I was playing that thing during sound check. You played it during sound check.
Yeah,
I mean, and I played, most of the set through it. Didn't feel like anything was wrong with it.
yeah.
And just boom, it happened. It could happen to, a brand new piece of gear. You never know.
For
So
sure.
So
does that just come from a local music company?
it depends. I mean, there are backline rental companies all over the country, all over the
Yeah.
world. So typically, you'll kind of get the rental from whatever backline company is closest to where you're going to be. So sometimes you get fortunate and there's a backline company that's like right there. Other times you have to get one that, they even have to travel 3 or 4 hours to bring you the stuff. But typically though, like that one being a festival, the festivals will hire out a big backline company to provide the gear for every band.
Wow.
So that was one big company that was providing the equipment for everybody that day. So they show up with massive trucks and tons of gear.
Wow.
And so it just depends on where you're at, how close there are. But I mean, there's countless backline companies out there.
Yeah.
So we typically, if it's a festival or a venue that maybe has a deal with one that they provided, or if we have to do it on our own, whatever it is. But you typically go with the one that's closest to where you are, as long as the one that's closest has the necessary equipment.
Right.
Most of the larger companies do. I mean, we require a lot of gear, but we don't really require any weird, outlandish gear. Everything that we require is kind of industry standard stuff. We just need a lot of it.
For sure. And then after that, you guys, I think you went right into Up All Night, right? After
From Flight of the Angels, yeah. Up All Night,
okay. And everything was good to go there. And then I remember before you went on stage and everything, you said, hey, you can,
come up
close and stuff like that. You said just don't get
in the way.
Don't get in the way of anybody. So I was like, okay, I'm going out for this one. Like, this is the closer. And I was like, right. I don't know if you noticed I was there or not, but I was right. I was to your right behind that little like amp stack that was there.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
That was really cool.
And I was just awesome watching that. So, and then but after that one, I think you went into the Who's Won't Get Fooled Again. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's when I kind of went back, and then I noticed that your China cymbal the stand had kind of broken apart too. And
yes,
China's it's not all together right now. And then I just remember at the very end, you just took the China off and just started smashing the cymbals with it.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
That was
so
really cool.
Yeah, that actually, I had a show. I don't even know how long ago it was, but where the wing nut on my China just flew off, and the felt flew off, and it was just hanging there flapping in the breeze. So I just ripped the cymbal off and started smashing things with it. And then because of that, everybody that was at that show all said the same thing. Dude, you have to do that every time.
Exactly.
So now whenever I can, I find a moment to try to get that wing nut to fly off as quick and make it happen.
Yeah,
because
that was
it's
really
become
cool.
It's become kind of a staple thing.
Nice. Well, that was awesome. So it's what they're made for. They're made to be bashed around. So
yeah, exactly. That's what they're meant for. But yeah, that was a thing that it was an absolute just spur of the moment accident. Wing nut flew off, just random grabbed it, started hitting things with it. But since then, it's just become like I guess a signature thing that happens all the time now.
Do you guys collectively as a band decide what covers you're going to play?
Yes and no. I mean, we've been playing those two pretty often. Those they had even told me before I came on board, when I came in for my first show, that those were staples that they like to do. And we have a few others that we've thrown in from time to time, but when that happens, it's usually very spur of the moment. And like I said, Blando loves to do that. That's usually him. Just there's no discussion. He'll just go into one on stage.
Oh, fun.
And just hope that everybody knows it, So we've had a couple of shows where he's just pulled a cover out that, of course I've heard the song before, but I've never played it, So just kind of winging it, in the moment. But since then though, I've done actually a couple of Blando is he is a compendium of songs. The man knows more songs than anybody I've ever met. It's crazy. And he and I have done a couple of these shows together outside of Slaughter with his band called Blandini, which is basically a cover band. So since then I've kind of gotten familiar with a lot of what's in his repertoire. So now when he pulls one out of the hat, there's a better chance that
Better
I
chance you know it.
better chance. Not necessarily foolproof, but better chance. But those two in particular, those happen pretty regularly. We like to throw those out. We just they're really high energy. We have a lot of fun playing them. They're really, really right in Mark's wheelhouse vocally. That immigrant song, really high vocal, is like right in Mark's range. So it's kind of, the perfect high energy thing for us. And crowds usually really, really love it. I mean, obviously we stick to mostly doing Slaughter music,
Yeah,
but
right.
it's always fun to just throw one or two covers in to jam out and have some fun with the crowd. So those are very, very common for us, those two.
And Mark still sounds great.
He does.
He does, man. He's still got it. I mean, these songs are really hard to sing.
Yeah.
They are really up there, and he does it night after night after night. He just kills it every night. And I mean, honestly, I'm really lucky to be with all those guys, because they're the nicest people on the planet. They've treated me like family from the first moment that I met them. Mark is still singing his ass off and playing his ass off. He's a great
Yeah.
guitar player.
Yeah.
Lando is a phenomenal guitar player and a phenomenal singer himself.
Yeah.
Dan-
I remember that when you're doing sound check, he was kind of doing a little vocals here and like, Mark's not out here? Damn.
yeah,
Okay.
Blando can sing.
Yeah.
He can sing. And Dana, I mean,
Dana's, yeah.
that he's a wild man up there, man. He plays his ass off and he runs around that stage just like it's crazy. He doesn't stop moving, and
Yeah, he was back there with us. He would take, and then he did the Triple H thing.
yeah.
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 He's a ball of energy, and he does it while, he doesn't miss a note while he's doing it. He runs around like a madman playing all those parts, and those parts are not that easy. He's got some pretty intricate bass lines that he's done while he's doing all that stuff. So I mean, it's pretty crazy to be back there, behind all three of those guys, and like in watching it happen every night. It's really, really cool to see. And then yeah, of course, those guys been together for so long.
Yeah, I mean the two of the founding members, and one's not too far behind from being a founding member, really, with
Yeah,
Blando.
Blando's been with them for a really long time. I think
22, no, 25 years.
something like that. Definitely
Yeah,
somewhere between 20 and 25, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, those guys, the three of them have been together forever, and they they click. They have, a chemistry. They all know where each other are going all the time, and that honestly made it a lot easier for me to come in too, because it wasn't like a thing where everybody had to kind of get familiar. I was
Yeah.
able to just kind of come in and have to get familiar with the unit, not each individual. And that kind of made it a little easier to kind of click, because they're all just so locked in together that it was like, just okay, lock in with that and I'm done.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Yeah.
you put on a huge performance yourself.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. It was just phenomenal to watch you. So between what you expend during a show, the traveling, the getting up early, everything, what do you do? Is there anything you do on a daily basis to keep yourself healthy?
Yeah, I'm very, very strict with my regimen. I work out 6 days a week. That's something that I do no matter what. It's what I need to do to make sure that I stay in the kind of shape that I need to be in to play that way every night. Especially for the nights where it's a longer show, like, you guys came to a festival show where it was a lot of bands. So, it was a shorter set, but when we play a headline show, it's a minimum of an hour and a half typically.
Right.
So, for that situation, it
Yeah,
requires a
and
lot.
then getting up so early the next day and everything. It's like,
Yeah. So when we're out,
through a lot of stuff there.
yeah, when we're out, the sleep schedule is very hard. So, when I'm home, I try to be very regimented with the right sleep schedule and the right, and a healthy diet. And like I said, I work out constantly. I'm very, very strict with how I am when I'm home so that it doesn't take as much of a toll when I'm out. And we all try to catch up on as much sleep as we can. I mean, even if it's like, oh, we're only going to get 2 hours of sleep before we got to get to the airport, we all make sure to make the most out of those 2 hours. And then we try our best to sleep on the planes. And, typically when I get home from a trip like that, as soon as I get home, I'm out cold for the day. Like I play catch up. When I came home from that trip, I can guarantee you that I got home, I unpacked my bags, and I just slept, So, we all do what we can to minimize the impact it has on us. But I find that for me, just kind of sticking to a pretty healthy workout and diet kind of helps minimize the impact that schedule has on me, you know?
You have you thought of doing any kind of videos for drummers to, because you're in great shape. Like, let's be honest, like you're in great shape. Like to say, hey, this is what works for me. Try it, maybe it'll work for you. And
You
have
know,
you do anything like that since you do teach as well?
I never really thought of it. It's probably a really good idea. Yeah, but I never really thought about doing it. But that's probably not a bad idea. I mean, I don't really do anything, I didn't really come up with my own plan or routine or anything. I studied a lot about fitness and body weight workouts and stuff. So like, I travel with resistance bands and stuff like that. And I just
That we
do,
used to, yeah.
yeah. So I have a whole routine that I do 6 days a week with some things with resistant bands, some things with pull-up bars, and sometimes it's like, those high intensity like interval circuits and stuff like that. So I do a lot of stuff like that kind of just keeps me burning the calories and keeps the blood pumping. And then I just try to stick to a fairly healthy diet, especially when I'm home. When we go out on these on the runs with the band, I typically do find those as being like my cheat days for the meals, because we're traveling, right? So we're
Yeah.
going to places that I might not get to go to again. So I view it as like when I'm home, I'm going to be very strict. I'm going to eat really healthy. I'm going to watch everything I eat. And then when we go out and we're playing at this casino or whatever, well, that casino's got this really cool restaurant. I'm going to go experience that restaurant. So it's one of these things where it's like I try to have that 1 or 2 days a week where I enjoy myself, and I have the rest of the days where I just follow this routine to try to minimize the impact. And the truth is, I really started that whole health routine not because of the travel schedule and stuff. I actually started it, to be honest, after the adrenaline mob crash, because I realized, I mean, and it took me a long time to get back to where I even could work out.
Right.
There was a long period of time where I couldn't. But I kind of realized that, with everything that happened with the injuries I sustained, if I don't work hard to be in the best shape I can, I'm gonna dwindle that much faster.
Yeah.
So I really started it thinking, I have injuries. I need to try to make myself be in the best shape possible to minimize the impact that those injuries are having on me.
Yeah.
And
What were your injuries? Like, was it more like the legs, the arms, or where were you getting it?
uh
The most?
it was pretty much for the most part, it was my neck, my back, and my shoulders.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was mostly upper body stuff. There was a little bit of lower damage, but not nearly as severe. But I sustained pretty heavy injuries to my shoulders, my neck, and my back. So, and as a drummer, shoulders and
Yeah.
obviously, and listen, when I'm on stage, I'm headbanging, that's neck and back and stuff like that. So I realized pretty early on, once I finally got back into it, that it was harder, than it ever had been. And I needed to get myself into the best shape I could to minimize that impact.
Yeah.
And the irony is that even though I'm fighting those injuries daily and I feel them every day, I'm probably in better health now than I was back then.
Mhm.
Which is what's helping minimize the impact of what they're doing on me. You know, like I feel it every day. My shoulder, my neck, they hurt every day. You know, but I go to the chiropractor every time I'm home. You know, I do everything I can to minimize it. So, you know, for me, it's just the sleep schedule is probably the hardest thing. But other than that, it's just, you know, I follow a strict workout regimen and a fairly strict diet, and that's what keeps me going.
Nice.
Yeah, and you know, the other guys, I don't know, they've been doing it forever, so maybe they're just immune to it. I don't know.
Well, they're not flinging their limbs around everywhere like we
Yeah.
do either. So
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, you know, they definitely, you know, they're
sure,
high energy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know they
it's
run around and
different kind of impact, you
different kind
know,
of
different
impact.
kind of
Yeah,
impact, you know, especially, you know, for the singers, especially, you know, they're definitely getting winded, you know,
Yeah.
pushing all that air. That's a different,
sure, for
different
sure.
kind of exhaustion, you know, and especially, you know, on like an outdoor show like that, you know, dry heat or whatever,
Yeah,
that can have an effect on somebody who's trying to push that much air. So
sure.
it's, you know, everybody's got different complications to navigate.
I know. I'm just letting them know they're not as awesome as us
The
drummers.
drummers are the hardest workers, damn it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so when show was done, we thought we were just gonna head out, and then like, no, come on back, come on back, come on back. And we ended up hanging out for a few more minutes, which
Yeah.
again, like that's when we were like, it went full circle for us. We're like, we kind of ended the same way it began, where we're just giving
Yeah.
hugs and saying, oh, thank you so much, and you guys are friends anytime. We're close. You know, you guys can make it. You just let me know you're there and everything else. And we just again want to thank you so much for the hospitality that
My
you
pleasure.
alone and the rest of the guys as well. So
It's my pleasure and it's their pleasure too. You know, listen, like I said, that's why we do it. We like getting out and seeing, you know, all of our friends that we've met, you know, throughout the years, and I see it in them too. You know, I mean, we're, you know, we go out and do a show and they've got some friend that they haven't seen in 15 years comes out and they bring them in the back to hang, and you know, and obviously it's somebody new to me that I've never met, but you know, it's they're bringing out their friends and their family and saying hi, you know, and that's why we like to do it. We love getting out and seeing everybody. We, you know, it the songs that these guys wrote connected so many people, you
Yeah.
know, and it really is cool to see it and cool to experience it, you know, and you know, for me, you know, that's you guys, you know, we connected through music, and that's what's great, you know, now through two different bands, you know.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
I mean, you've been so blessed with the guys you surrounded yourself with, which has got to say a lot for you as well, because the Adrenaline Mob guys were amazing also.
Yeah.
Mike and Russell and of
Russell's
course David
amazing.
Z and
Yep.
just I mean you've and some I mean you have to say some of it's them, but I mean also you're the common denominator. So got to say a lot of that's
Honestly,
got to do with you too, because you
I got
gotta,
lucky, man.
you know,
I got lucky. That's the truth. I got lucky. You know, I mean, it is rare to find, you know, a group of people that you really love to work with, and I definitely did get lucky in that sense. I really did.
for sure.
Now, on our drive home, we came up with something that you guys
Oh,
should
yeah.
market.
I forgot about this.
Because,
Okay.
okay, so here we were in Tucson. It was hot. What does everybody want? They want water. Why don't you do slaughter water and spell it
Slaughter water.
like slaughter, like WAUGHTER, metal
Slaughter
water,
It has
Damn.
alkaline in it with metal, right?
Alkaline slaughter water.
slaughter water.
I got to talk to Mark about that. Well, ironically, Mark and I are both very big into the alkaline water thing. We
Yeah.
both
Oh, okay.
so he
metal slaughter water.
Yeah.
metal slaughter water. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Just a thought.
I'm just gonna, like, you know, take this bottle and make a label and fill it up at the
Yeah.
sink. Yeah, here's $20. No.
That
I won't
was our
do that
trip
to you, I
home.
promise.
Yeah. So
No, that's cool. Slaughter water. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like I
yeah,
like it. I like it.
will you guys do anything new in the future?
I hope so. I really hope so. You know, we have a really busy tour schedule for the rest of the year. We are swamped. I'm home this coming weekend, and then I don't think I'm home for a single weekend all the way through until October.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah.
So there maybe there's one weekend off in there somewhere,
Wow.
but we are absolutely swamped. So right now, I'm gonna say that we are just really focused on touring and all that. However, I definitely know that we would all love to do it. I know that we would love to. So, and I definitely would. I mean,
That'd be awesome.
I've had, a lot of fun with these guys, and the ability to get in a room and create something with them would be really, really cool. So I hope so. But yeah, right now I would just say that we're really, really focusing on getting getting all the touring and everything done. And we've been working hard on not just, doing the shows and everything, but we've been ramping up everything. We actually just recently, over the last 2 weeks, started introducing like some new production into the show, new video production and all sorts of stuff like that. So we've been really working hard on ramping up the show, and hopefully over time, once things calm down a little bit, we'll be able to maybe get into the studio and do some writing. I know I would definitely love to, and we have spoken about it. We
Oh,
we
that'd
have
be really
we,
cool.
we definitely have had conversations about doing some stuff, but if and when it's going to happen, I do not know.
Very cool.
And then you just played, was it called M3,
Three.
right?
M3, yeah, the M3
Yeah.
festival. That was a fun
That's
one.
in Maryland, right?
Yep, yep,
And
yeah.
that
That
was
was,
one of the last few shows with Kicks, if I'm not mistaken.
they announced that day that they are
Yeah.
retiring this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they played the day after us though, so I didn't actually get to see them play there. I have seen them a few times in the past though. They're unbelievable.
And
But
did you hear the story behind like their drummer had a heart attack on stage and all that, Jimmy?
Jimmy, yeah, he actually, if I'm not mistaken, he had two over
He,
the last year or
yeah,
Wow.
so.
he technically died, I think, on stage at the last one he had. So
Oh, that I didn't
Eddie
know.
Trunk was talking about it. He had the guys on the cruise, or not the cruise that they had just done before that.
Yeah, Monsters of
With
Rock.
Monsters of Rock, yeah, with Extreme. That's where Nuno blew out his
Yep.
knee. And, yeah,
Yeah.
crazy cruise. So, and then you got to
Yeah.
meet Todd Zuckerman, right?
I did. I got to meet Todd. Yeah,
Cool.
he's about as badass as it gets. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was definitely a fanboy moment for me, for sure.
he's a guy that you doesn't matter if it's a lefty or a righty kid, he can play it. So he's amazing.
I look, he's one of those guys where you don't get better, you only get different.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no better than Todd. There's just different from Todd.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
He's
he's about as good as he can get. I mean, I don't know what else anybody can do behind the drums, you know.
he's
But yeah,
amazing.
I did get to meet him, and he was really, really nice, and that was really cool for me. I was really excited about, the whole time. You can, if you ever get a chance to ask the guys, they'll tell you, like, we were planning out going out to like a dinner afterward, and I was like, guys, I need to watch Todd play. I need to watch Todd play. I don't care what we do for dinner. I need to watch Todd play. So
That's
it was cool to get to meet him, and it was when I met him, he was hanging out with Rod Morgenstein, who I already know. So that
yeah,
was kind of cool
yeah.
too. Rod was kind of the person who, did the connection there.
That's very cool. Well, I'm glad you got to do that. That's awesome because it's always
Yeah.
great to meet you here, especially when they're nice, especially when they're good people. So,
He was, man. He was as sweet as can be, and I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and tell you that I hung out with him forever. It was a short meeting, but he was as nice as can be, and it was really cool to get to talk to him for a few minutes and hang out, and even cooler that I got to do it with Rod, because he and I don't see each other often, but we're close because we have a bit of a teacher student kind of relationship. He was one of my
cool.
teachers at Berkeley,
Oh
so
wow. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
he was one of my college professors.
Oh,
So
cool.
Wow.
it's always kind of cool when we get to be on the same bill together, because
Mhm.
it's a cool thing, the student and the teacher on the same show, kind
It's
of
really
cool,
cool. It's
you
really
know.
cool.
So that's cool. And we're both lefty, so that always is a trip.
Is he?
Rod's a lefty, yeah.
Oh, Huh. Never
The
know.
lefty.
Interesting.
That's one of the things that I think we bonded on earlier when I first started going to his class in college. When I was in school, I go to every one of the classrooms, and the classrooms are lined up. There's usually, depending on the size of the room, anywhere from 5 to 10 kits set up, but there was never a lefty one set up. I had to flip it around at every class I went to, and I
We're
had to
always
flip
waiting on Jordan to get set up.
every time, no matter what. There was usually small kits, it was
Yeah.
usually just a 4-piece thing. Just swap the hi-hat and the ride, swap the snare and the floor tom, and move on. But I had to do it at every single class. But Rod, being a lefty, his kit was set up lefty, and the class that we had that I took with him was a double bass class,
Oh, okay.
which was when I went to Berkeley. Double bass was one of the things that I think I was already pretty strong with. And it was interesting, like, I'd go into one class that's like a jazz class, and I'm the weakling. I'm the little kid in the back, like, excuse me, what are you doing? you know. But when we were in the double bass class and all these jazz cats were in there with me, I was, maybe it was one of the moments where I was like, okay, I think I'm holding my own here. So Rod, instead of having me set up, a lefty kit, he basically would just let me sit at his kit. And it was cool because he had one of his old Premiere kits that he used to tour and record and all that with in his classroom there. So I got to play one of his kits every day in that class. And that was always kind of cool because, and depending on what we were doing, if it wasn't something crazy outlandish, he'd just say, Jordan, demonstrate it, so it would be cool because I was able to just kind of sit there and play on his kit, and he and I kind of got to, get to know each other a little bit when we found out we were both lefty, and we kind of hit it off. And then, being that we had similar tastes in music and stuff, I did everything I could to soak up what he was teaching me like a sponge. I showed up every day early, I left every day late.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
So it was just one of those things where we just hit it off. And now whenever we get to ironically be on a show together, it's just a cool moment where we get to, hug each other and be like, I can't believe this.
That's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to go over coming up? Yeah.
Like I said, Slaughter just has a ton of shows coming up. I mean, like I said, we're booked pretty solid throughout pretty much the whole summer and a really good chunk of the fall. So I mean, if people go onto the Slaughter website, slaughterusa.com, you can see all the different tour dates, and there will be more that are getting announced. Even I'm not even 100% sure they're all listed up there because we definitely have a crazy full calendar. But we're really, really busy touring. That's kind of what I'm focusing on right now, is just, continuing to go out with Slaughter, and that's the priority. And that's kind of what's going to be keeping me busy for the remainder of the year, and hopefully much further.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love it when it says load more. When I look at the tour, I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Me too.
Jordan is busy.
I want to hit that load more button 50 times.
Yeah. Load more. Yeah. Something needs to load less so you can get in the studio and make some new music. So we want to hear you on.
That is true. I would listen, and I would love to do it. And typically, I mean, I don't know if it's always going to be the case, but I know just based on last year's schedule, we typically were a little slower during the holiday season, which I guess everybody likes to be with their family.
For sure.
So, maybe that's going to be the time where we start at least discussing, what the possibilities are and stuff like that. So I hope that that's the case. But like I said, if it's up to me, we're going to do it. Yeah. But it's one of those things where we're just, we're so swamped, and I pray that we do something. And as soon as I know, you'll know.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for doing this.
You are awesome.
Yeah, you're the best.
Thank you for coming on the show again. Yeah. We really appreciate you.
Anytime. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Drumming up conversation.